The night my own family laughed at me across a Christmas table and asked when I was finally going to build a real life, they meant it. They had been saying for years that I was drifting, unstable, not serious enough to be taken seriously, and I let them believe it, because while they were busy measuring me, I had already bought a place of my own months earlier, built something real in silence, something they couldn't reduce or compare. And what happened when I finally said it out loud didn't just shut them up, it rewrote everything they thought they knew about me. And if you've ever been underestimated by people who should have known you best, this revenge might feel a little too familiar. Chapter 1. The glass in my hand felt too thin, like it might give if I held it any tighter. Christmas always looked perfect in my mother's house in West Hartford. Warm lights, polished wood, everything in its place, like nothing messy was allowed to exist here. Everyone had a seat at that table. I knew mine before I even sat down. My mother stood first, lifting her glass with that calm, practiced smile that made people follow without thinking. "Let's toast to Corinne," she said. 30, homeowner, finally settled. The applause came easy. It moved around the table like it always did, familiar, automatic. Corinne smiled, controlled, like she didn't want to look too proud, but she was. In this house, she had done everything right. I clapped too, not because I felt it, because not clapping would have said too much. I leaned back slightly, keeping my face neutral. I had learned a long time ago that if I stayed quiet, people filled in the blanks for me, and they always filled them the same way. My mother's eyes found me next. "And Elowen," she said, "how are things going these days? Still figuring things out?" A few soft laughs, not cruel, just expected. That was worse. Corinne leaned forward, resting her arms on the table like she was helping. "Not everyone needs to rush," she said. "Some people just need more time to find their direction." Then she added almost gently, "At least you're trying, right?" That one landed. I kept my face still, but I felt it. That clean little cut wrapped in something that sounded kind if you didn't listen too closely. Find their direction. I had heard that version of me before. Different words, same idea. Still drifting, still not quite there. No one asked what I was actually doing. They didn't need to. They already had a version of my life that made sense to them. I looked down for a second, watching the reflection of the lights in my fork. There was a part of me that knew exactly what to do next. Smile, let it slide, keep things smooth. I had done that for years. Different table, different year, same version of me. But something had shifted a while back, somewhere quiet, somewhere none of them had access to. I looked up. "I'm good," I said. My mother nodded slowly, like she was waiting for the real answer. "Good how?" she asked. "You know we just want you to have something stable, something real." Something real. I let that sit for a second. Across from me, Megan met my eyes. She didn't smile, she just watched, like she actually wanted to hear what I was going to say. I set my glass down. "I already do," I said. That made my mother pause. "Do what?" "Have something stable." Corinne gave a small laugh, like she thought she already understood. "Okay," she said. "What is it this time?" That phrase used to push me back into place. Tonight, it didn't. I met her eyes. "It's not this time," I said. "It's been a while." The table shifted, not loud, but enough. Chairs, hands, small movements that meant people were paying attention now. My mother tilted her head slightly. "Elowen," she said, slower now, "what are you talking about?" I could feel my pulse in my hands, steady, controlled. I wasn't nervous. That was new. I just didn't feel like editing myself anymore. "I have a place," I said. Corinne leaned back a little. "A place?" she repeated. "Yes. Like an apartment or something more permanent?" "More." Corinne exhaled through her nose. "Did you sign a lease?" she asked. "Because that's not really the same as owning." I almost smiled. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch just enough to matter. Megan spoke before I did. Let her finish. Not loud, but it cut clean through the room. My mother glanced at her, then back at me. "Go ahead." I folded my hands together on the table. I bought it, I said. No one reacted at first. It took a second, like the words didn't land where they expected. Bought what? My mother asked. A house in Maine, near the coast. Corinne's expression shifted just a fraction. You bought a house? She said. When? March, closed in April. With what money? There it was again. Not curiosity, a check for weakness. Savings from the last 6 years. My uncle looked up. You've been working that much? Yes. Doing what? My mother asked. I held her gaze. Working, I said, just not in a way you paid attention to. That one landed harder than anything else. No one laughed this time. Corinne crossed her arms. So you bought a house and you're living there? Yes. Alone? Sometimes, sometimes not. She frowned. What does that mean? It means I run it, I said. It's a small boarding house. I renovated it myself. 5 rooms, 3 are already leased. The other 2 are booked through spring. That changed something. Not everything, but enough. It was no longer something they could brush off. My mother looked at me differently now. Not proud, not yet, just recalculating. You did all that? She said. Yes. Corinne opened her mouth, then stopped. Megan leaned back, watching both of us like she was waiting to see who moved next. My mother glanced around the table like she needed confirmation before reacting. Why didn't you tell us? She asked. I let out a slow breath. Because every time I tried, I said, you had already decided what it meant before I finished. No one spoke. The tree lights flickered in the corner. Someone shifted, then went still. I looked at each of them, one by one. I didn't need them to believe me. Not anymore. I didn't need them to understand. I just needed them to hear it once without turning it into something smaller. For the first time, no one rushed to correct me. They just sat there, trying to fit me into a story that no longer worked. And I could see it on their faces. They didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't done yet, not even close. And for the first time, they were the ones trying to catch up. The quiet didn't break right away. It just sat there, tight and uncomfortable, like no one wanted to be the first to say something they couldn't take back. My mother set her glass down with care, like even that needed to be controlled. So, she said, what exactly are you trying to tell us? I didn't rush. I had learned that if I spoke too fast, they would hear hesitation instead of truth. I'm saying I already built something, I said. I just didn't bring it here. Corinne leaned forward, her expression sharpening just a little. Built what? A business? She let out a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh. A business, she repeated, like officially or just something you're trying out. There it was. Not denial, positioning. Official, I said. My mother folded her hands together. Then why is this the first time we're hearing about it? Because every time I tried to explain it, it got reduced before I even finished. That didn't settle. It pushed back. My aunt gave a soft, careful smile. I think your mom just wants to understand, she said. That's all. Understand. I looked at her, then back at my mother. No, I said. You want something that fits what you already believe. Corinne straightened. That's not fair. Then why does it always sound like that? Megan said quietly. That shifted the room. We're asking normal questions, Corinne said. That's not a crime. Not when the answer is actually wanted, I said. My mother leaned forward slightly. Elowen, you can't expect people to accept something without proof. I nodded once. I don't expect that. I expect it to be heard the first time. Corinne shook her head. You're acting like we've never supported you. Supported. I let that sit for a second. You supported the version of me that made sense to you, I said, not the one that was actually there. Her jaw tightened. That's not true. Then what was it? She didn't answer, because there wasn't an easy way to answer that without admitting something. I leaned back, steady. From 2018 through last year, I said, I worked freelance, repairs, restorations, small renovations, anything that paid, anything I could learn from. My mother frowned slightly. You never presented it that way. I did, You just didn't hear it that way. Because it didn't sound stable, Corrine said. It sounded like a phase. A phase, I nodded. That's exactly what I mean. My aunt tilted her head. But you have to understand how that looked from the outside. I met her eyes. I wasn't building something for the outside. Corrine crossed her arms again. And now, suddenly, it's a business? It didn't suddenly become anything. You just noticed it late. She let out a sharper breath. People who are actually successful don't hide it like this. There it was. Clean, direct. Something shifted in my chest, but I didn't let it show. Or maybe they don't need to prove it to the same people who already decided they failed, I said. Megan leaned forward slightly. That sounds more accurate. Corrine glanced at her, irritation breaking through. This is getting ridiculous. My mother raised a hand slightly, trying to pull things back under control. Let's stay focused. Focused. I looked at her. You've always struggled to stick with anything, she said, quieter now, like she thought that would soften it. It didn't. It clarified everything. I felt something settle in me instead of rise. That's what you've been waiting for, I said, for me to prove that right. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. My uncle finally spoke, his voice low. So you bought the place, fixed it up yourself? Yes. And you're renting rooms? Yes. He nodded once, like he was doing the math. That's real work. It wasn't praise, but it wasn't dismissal either. My mother glanced at him, then back at me. That still doesn't explain why you kept this from us. I didn't keep it from you. I stopped offering it to people who weren't interested in seeing it. Her expression shifted, just enough to show it landed. That's not fair. It's accurate. Corrine leaned forward again, sharper now. So what, she said. We're just supposed to believe you've been building this quietly and now it works? Yes. That didn't sit well with her. Because that's not how things usually happen. No, I said. It's not how things usually happen when people are watching. Megan leaned forward slightly. Exactly. My aunt looked between us, uneasy. I think everyone's trying here. Maybe, but trying wasn't the same as seeing. My mother straightened again. If this is real, she said, then show us something concrete. There it was. Not curiosity, verification. I nodded slowly. I can. Corrine watched me closely. Then do it. Not because she wanted to see, because she expected not to. I reached for my phone, then stopped. For a second, I thought about all the times I had tried to explain something only to have it reshaped into something smaller. All the times I handed over parts of my life and watched them get rewritten. I looked back up at them. You don't actually want proof, I said. My mother frowned. Of course we do. No, you want confirmation. Of what? That I'm exactly who you think I am. The room went still again. Corrine's jaw tightened. That's not fair. I didn't argue. I didn't need to. Because for the first time, I wasn't trying to convince them of anything. My phone was still in my hand. I hadn't unlocked it. And suddenly, it didn't feel urgent. I could show them everything right now. The numbers, the bookings, the photos. I could lay it all out in a way they couldn't ignore. But I didn't, because for the first time, I understood something clearly. They weren't asking to understand. They were asking for a way to correct me, and I wasn't going to give them that. Not yet. They didn't deserve to see it. I could feel them leaning in without moving, like the whole table had shifted toward me in a way no one wanted to admit. For a second, I let the silence stay exactly where it was. Then I spoke. I bought it in March last year. No one interrupted. A small boarding house, coastal Maine, quiet town, not the kind of place people talk about. Corinne didn't smile this time. She watched me like she was waiting for something to break. Why there? Because no one else wanted it. That landed wrong in the room. Not disbelief, something closer to unease. My mother shifted slightly. What do you mean no one wanted it? It had been sitting empty for almost 2 years, I said. Old structure, needed work, most buyers walked away. So you didn't, Corinne said. No. She tilted her head. And that made sense to you? It made sense to me to fix it. She studied me for a second longer than usual. That's not how people make smart investments. It is if you know what you're doing. That was the first time her expression slipped. My uncle leaned forward a little. How bad was it? Bad enough that the inspection report scared people off. And you still went through with it? Yes. Why? Because I knew I could handle it. I didn't say that part out loud. Because I wasn't buying it for what it was, I said instead. I was buying it for what it could become. That sat differently. Not impressive, not yet. Just harder to dismiss. Corinne crossed her arms. You bought it with savings. Yes. All of it? Most. That's reckless. It worked. She didn't like that answer. My mother leaned forward. You said you handled the purchase yourself. I did. No agent? I had legal support for closing, I said. Everything was clean, title cleared, deed in my name. That changed something. Legal details made it real in a way nothing else had. Corinne glanced at my mother, then back at me. So this isn't just an idea. It never was. Aunt Melissa leaned closer, curiosity finally replacing caution. Do you have people staying there already? Yes. How many? 3 long-term tenants, 6 to 12-month leases. Her eyes widened slightly. Already? Yes. Corinne's voice came quieter now. And the other rooms? Booked through spring. That was the moment it shifted. Not all at once, but enough. It stopped sounding like something temporary. Megan smiled, small but real. That's solid. Corinne didn't look at her. Instead, she kept her eyes on me. This doesn't just happen, she said. You're leaving something out. There it was. Suspicion. I didn't react. There's nothing missing, I said. That's not believable. It doesn't need to be. That irritated her more than anything else I had said. My mother's voice cut in tighter now. How did you even learn to do all of this? By doing it, I said. For years. You never showed us any of that. I tried. That answer sat there longer than it should have. Grandma Ruth set her glass down softly. I had a feeling, she said. Everyone turned toward her. What a feeling about what? My mother asked. That she was building something, Grandma said. You can tell when someone stops asking for permission. Corinne frowned. That doesn't mean anything. It does, Grandma said calmly. You just don't like what it points to. My mother exhaled slowly. Mom, that's not the issue. It is, Grandma said. You just haven't caught up yet. That shifted something again, not in what they believed, in how certain they felt about it. I watched them all for a moment. The way my mother kept trying to regain control, the way Corinne was still looking for a crack, the way Megan had stopped questioning entirely. They weren't reacting to what I had built. They were reacting to the fact that they hadn't seen it coming. Corinne leaned forward again. So you've been doing all this and just decided not to tell anyone? I decided to stop explaining things that weren't going to be understood. That's not the same thing. It is when nothing changes. She pressed her lips together. You're assuming we wouldn't have supported you. I'm remembering that you didn't. That landed harder than anything else. My uncle looked down at the table. My aunt shifted in her seat. Megan didn't look away. My mother straightened. If this is real, then why keep it from your own family? There it was again. Same question, different tone. I took a slow breath. Because every time I shared something before, it got rewritten. No one interrupted. Not this time. Corinne's voice dropped quieter. So now you just don't trust us? I held her gaze. It's not about trust. Then what is it? It's about pattern. That ended it. For a second. The room felt different now, not tense in the same way, more unsettled, like something had shifted that couldn't be pushed back. I reached for my phone again. then stopped. There were parts of this they wouldn't understand even if I explained. Numbers wouldn't change that. Photos wouldn't either. I could show them everything. The leases, the bookings, the work I had done, all of it. I didn't tell them everything, not even close. And for the first time, it felt like the right decision. They were still trying to figure me out. What they didn't realize was I had already figured them out. The shift settled into the room in a way no one could ignore. My mother looked at me, searching for something familiar and not finding it. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. Her voice was softer now, but it wasn't kindness. It was uncertainty. I held her gaze. "Because every time I did, you didn't hear me." She shook her head. "That's not true." "It is," I said. "You just didn't notice." Corinne moved beside her, quicker this time. "No one was ignoring you," she said. I turned to her. "Then tell me what I was doing." She looked at me, then away. No answer. That silence stretched longer than anything else had tonight. I let it. My mother stepped in, trying to regain control. "You mentioned things," she said, "but you never made it clear this was serious." "I did," I said. "You just decided it wasn't." That landed harder. Corinne crossed her arms. "You're acting like we wanted you to fail." I didn't raise my voice. "I didn't need you to fail," I said. "You just needed me to stay behind." The table went still. I didn't look away. "So you could feel like you were ahead." That one stayed in the air. No one moved. Megan leaned forward slightly. "She's right," she said. "You just never asked the right questions." Corinne looked at her, frustration breaking through. "You don't know everything." "I know enough," Megan said. That shut it down. My mother tried again. "This isn't about sides." "It is," I said quietly. "It always has been." She looked at me like she wanted to argue, but the words didn't come. For the first time, she didn't have a version of this that she could reshape. "We just wanted you to have something stable," she said. "There it is," I said. She frowned. "What does that mean?" "That word," I said. "Stable." Corinne let out a breath. "It matters." "It does," I said. "Just not the way you think." My mother leaned forward. "Then explain it." I shook my head. "I'm done explaining things just to have them turned into something smaller. That's not what we do." "It is," I said. "Every time." The room tightened again. Corinne tried to push back. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." "No," I said. "I'm just not shrinking it anymore." That stopped her. My uncle looked at me carefully. "You really built all of this yourself?" "Yes." "No help?" "Not the kind you mean." He nodded slowly. "That takes time." It did. "And you didn't tell anyone." I stopped trying to be understood by people who already made up their minds. That sat differently, not defensive, final. My mother straightened again, holding on to what little control she had left. "If this is real," she said, "then you need to show us something." There it was. Not belief, verification. I met her eyes. "Everything is signed. Everything is mine." That changed the air again. Not completely, but enough. Corinne looked at me, searching for something that would pull this back into something she understood. "This still doesn't make sense," she said. "It doesn't have to," I said. "It does if you expect us to believe it." "I don't," I said. That hit harder than anything else. My mother stared at me. "You don't?" "No." "Then what do you want?" "Nothing." The word landed clean. Corinne shook her head. "That's not how this works." "It is now," I said. My mother's voice tightened. "You don't just shut people out." "I'm not shutting anyone out. I'm just not explaining myself anymore." "That's the same thing." "It only feels that way because you're used to controlling how I'm seen." That's it. The moment everything tipped. Not loud, not dramatic. Just undeniable. Megan leaned back slightly, watching. "She's been doing this for years," she said. "You just never asked." Grandma Ruth nodded. "Stability doesn't always look the same." My mother didn't argue. She couldn't. Not this time. Corinne opened her mouth again, then stopped. There was nothing left to correct, nothing left to reduce. The version of me they had been holding on to didn't exist anymore, and they knew it. I could see it in the way they looked at me now, careful, uncertain, like they were trying to figure out where they fit, and for the first time, that wasn't my responsibility. I reached for my glass and took a slow sip. No one spoke. No one tried to smooth it over, because there was nothing left to fix. They weren't deciding who I was anymore. I was. Chapter 5. The quiet that followed stayed with me longer than anything that had been said. Not heavy, not tense, just different. For the first time, I walked away from that table without replaying every word in my head, without wondering if I should have explained it better or made it easier for them to accept. I didn't need to anymore. 2 days later, my phone buzzed while I was standing in the kitchen, rinsing out a coffee mug. A message from my mother. I didn't know. That was all it said. No follow-up, no attempt to reshape what happened. Just that. I stared at it for a moment, waiting for the old instinct to kick in, the need to respond, to explain, to make sure she understood what I meant. It didn't come. I set the phone down and went back to what I was doing. For once, silence didn't feel like something I had to fix. It just was. Corinne didn't text, she didn't call, but a few days later, when her name showed up in the family group chat, something had changed. No small digs, no jokes that landed a little too sharp, just neutral. They didn't joke about me anymore. Megan called me that weekend. I stepped outside, the steady coastal wind moving through the trees behind the house, the air cold but clear. "You said it at the right time," she told me. "I didn't plan it," I said. "I know," she said. "That's why it mattered." I leaned against the railing, looking out toward the water. "I didn't hear them before," I said. "They didn't need to," Megan replied. "You did." That settled something I hadn't realized was still there. We talked for a while, but not about them, not about the dinner, just normal things. It felt easy in a way it never had before. A few weeks later, my grandmother came out to see me. I heard the car pull into the gravel driveway and stepped outside. She got out slowly, looking around like she was taking everything in. "You made it," I said. She smiled. "I did." I helped her with her bag and walked her inside. She didn't rush. She moved through the house at her own pace, pausing in each room, taking in the details without saying much. She noticed things people usually missed. After a while, we ended up sitting on the back porch. The wind carried in from the water, sharp and steady. She looked out for long moments before speaking. "You built something real here," she said. "I did." She nodded. "I know." That was it. No questions, no need for proof, just recognition. And somehow, that meant more than anything else. "I'm glad you came," I said. "Me too," she answered. We sat there a little longer without talking. There was nothing left to explain. When she left the next morning, she didn't bring up the dinner or try to give advice. She just hugged me and said she'd come back, and I believed her. Things didn't shift all at once after that. My mother didn't suddenly start calling every day. Corinne didn't turn into a different person, but something had changed. The way they spoke to me, the way they didn't. It was quieter, more careful, like they weren't sure where I fit anymore. And for the first time, that uncertainty wasn't mine to carry. I didn't feel the need to fill it or correct it. I had already said what needed to be said. I used to think I had to prove I wasn't failing, that if I just explained things the right way, they would finally see it. I don't think that anymore. One afternoon, I stood on the front porch looking out at the water. The house behind me was quiet, steady, lived in. Every part of it was something I had chosen, something I had built, something no one else had the right to question. that part that finally settled. Karma wasn't about anyone losing something. It wasn't about watching them admit they were wrong. It was simpler than that. They didn't get to decide who I was anymore, and I wasn't asking them to. The air felt clearer because of it, not lighter, just honest. I took a slow breath, letting the cold air settle in. No comparisons, no quiet judgments, no versions of me that I had to argue against, just space, the kind I had built for myself. I wasn't the person they underestimated anymore, and they knew it. I stayed there for a while, not thinking about what came next. There was nothing left to prove, nothing left to defend, and that was enough. If you've ever felt like you had to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's version of you, I want to know, did you stay quiet or did you walk away? If this story meant something to you, stay with me, share your thoughts below, and follow along for more stories that might feel a little closer to your own.